Welcome to Marathon Meeples. Today we're talking about Apiary, the new Stonemaier worker placement game all about bees. There are 6 different actions that you're going to be taking, anything from exploring where you get to move a bee ship around to collect resources, to buying tiles and building your tableau, and then you can actually go and do a bee dance, where you are going to be converting different resources. Then there's tiles specifically for endgame points. As your workers age and get stronger, at some points they're going to need to hibernate. When they hibernate, you do get a bonus, however you lose that worker and have to grow your hive again. Use an action to gain a worker. Then you're going to need to build up the strength of that worker over time, and when they reach 4, they're going to hibernate. So it's kind of a cat and mouse game. The game ends when you end up filling up the hibernation area, and it's going to be victory points, queen's crowns that you've collected along the way, and the victory points from there. Add them all up and see how you do.
So I think some of my favorite things about this game are just the puns I can have the whole time. I can say buzz off, to be or not to be. If I was smart enough to think of any 8 puns, because it's apiary, I could do that too. Sweet, every time I get a good move with the honey. There's lots of good things. What do you think about that, Lisa?
Yes, and he does it. This isn't just a joke.
She'd like me to buzz off.
At times, I wish there was a mute button.
So this is reminds me a little bit of Tapestry in terms of there's just a lot of different stuff in the box. Player boards, hives where you can build out your decks. There's a number of different bees and the factions that have different powers. A plethora of cards, a plethora of tiles. So in that regard, I don't think you would ever play the same game twice, and a lot of your starting bonuses that you get on your hives are going to dictate what you want to do.
Yeah, and the neat part is the way that you can explore and gain resources. There's a unique element to it where you get to choose one of the resources that you get. So you have a little bit more control. So you're never really handicapped as to what you can and cannot do, because there's always something you can do.
One thing I like in a lot of these Stonemaier games, and back to Tapestry, is you're not running into fixed player turns. It's not like you go 3 times, I go 3 times, and the round's over. In this game, you decide when you're putting out your workers, you decide when you're pulling them back. So you kind of have uneven turns, whereas somebody else on the board is just taking a turn, and I've kind of messed up my board and I have to pull my workers back. So we're not always doing the same thing, and you're trying to figure out your timing based on what you want to do and what the other players are doing.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think that's neat that plays off that is actions are never blocked in this game. All you do is you bump a bee out of the way, they go back to that player's hive, so in a sense you are giving them a worker back. However, you sometimes are using their strength plus your strength in order to take an action. So if they played a high level bee, you can play a lower level bee and still do some of those middle actions.
But sometimes it can sting, because if you get a 4 bee pushed out, then it becomes an invalid worker.
So then he has to hibernate. However, you get a bonus for going to hibernate. So if you are timing that accurately, sometimes hibernation isn't a bad thing. Everything has great artwork. All your meeples are custom. They're not just cubes, which adds to that flair and flavor as you're playing. So the production is something that I'm quite happy with. Everything seems to be working out. Everything has its place. And the components are easy to move around the board.
Now, question for you. I know this has the bee theme, and the bees are cool and everything, but could you just re-theme this? Do you feel like you're actually like a bee, or could you do this with bears, and bears are doing things in a cave? Do you feel any bee-ness about this?
I think this could be absolutely anything if you changed the wax and honey as your premium resources to whatever you would be having in another theme. It could easily be reskinned to something else. However, the bee theme and the cute giant bee ship, they call it, is quite cute and fun to play with. But no, it's a well-made produced game. Bees happen to be the theme.
Yeah, I like the bees. So I agree. I think you could make it anything, but the bees, oddly enough, work, and I don't think we really have any other bee games. I know there's a few on the market like Honey Buzz and whatnot, but this game, it works for it. Another nice thing is this comes with a 2-sided board. dedicated to player count. So the first side is 1 to 3 and the other side is 4 to 5. One thing this game plays, even though it's got like that modern style design where it has a bunch of different things going on, you put it all together, I almost feel like it's kind of like an older styled game, even though the art's new and everything goes with it. I just feel like I'm playing something from like 6 years ago, and I mean that as like a compliment. A lot of the other games that we've been playing in the last, year or two are a little bit lighter. They're maybe not as mathy and crunchy. This one you can get into that crunch if you want to here.
Yeah, you can play it really simply and just figuring it out. You might not score as high, but it's easy to teach someone. However, like Matthias said, there is some depth to this game if you want to dive and really try to maximize your points.
Would you play this with AP prone players?
I'd consider playing it with AP prone players if you were playing 2 to 3 players. If you were playing at a higher player count, I would say AP players could slow this to a slow crawl, not a flight.
You could min-max this pretty hard, I think, so you have to make the best case scenario and move on, but otherwise with all the different permutations around the board, yeah, I guess you're right, you could slow play this a little bit. So replayability, I find this game very replayable and I want to play it. There's a lot of games that we have that are very replayable and I'm like, do you want to play it? No, not really. I'm still interested. I feel like there's a lot to explore in this game. Depending on what cards you get, what tiles you get at the start, it can really go, oh, well, now I'm going to go up this path, I'm going to go up that path. There's a lot of different things to explore, and that, at least for me as a gamer, keeps me wanting to come back for more.
So from our perspective, with the variety of actions you can take, the factions, and the variability of the board setup, there is a lot of replayability in the box, and it's one that's going to keep hitting our table, and we're going to buzz along.